Hey everyone, we are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers and we really need your help. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button as we get started. Before we get into this, if you are a fan of Eala and you love watching her take over the tennis world one country at a time, hit that like button right now, drop a comment, and subscribe, because what is happening in Austria right now is one of the most jaw-dropping stories in all of sports and you need to be part of this conversation. Imagine you are Julia Grabher. You are an Austrian tennis professional. You have spent years grinding through the ranks, representing your country with pride, building a career match by match and point by point. The Ladies' Linz Open comes around, a tournament held right in your own backyard, in your own country, celebrating its 35th anniversary on clay for the very first time, and you find out you are playing your first round match at home. In front of your people. In front of the crowd that has watched you grow. This is supposed to be your moment. The home crowd. The home energy. The home advantage that every athlete in every sport dreams about. And then the tickets go on sale. And within minutes, 90% of the seats in that stadium are gone, not to Austrian fans coming out to cheer for their homegrown player, but to a wave of passionate, organized, absolutely unstoppable supporters who flew in, drove in, and showed up from every corner of the globe for one reason and one reason only. To see Eala. In that moment, Julia Grabher's home tournament stopped being hers. And the entire tennis world took notice. The Upper Austria Ladies' Linz Open is a WTA 500 event, a prestigious clay court tournament where the champion earns 500 ranking points, and this year it carries extra significance as it marks the first time the tournament is being played on clay. That is a milestone moment for the event. But the moment everyone is talking about has nothing to do with the surface and everything to do with a 20-year-old from the Philippines who has turned the global tennis community completely upside down. Sandra Reichel, the Linz Open tournament director, could not contain her enthusiasm about Eala's arrival, calling her unbelievable and saying it is great for the Philippines, for the people, for tennis fans in the Philippines to have such an amazing player. For a tournament director to go on record with that level of praise before a single ball is even struck, you know you are dealing with something that goes far beyond a regular first-round draw. Reichel did not just welcome Eala. She celebrated her. She called players like Eala the ones who will own the future of the sport. And she was right. Because what Eala has built around herself this season is not just a fan base. It is a movement. It is a global mobilization of support unlike anything women's tennis has seen behind a single player in recent memory. And it did not start in Austria. It started much earlier and it has been building momentum like a freight train with no brakes. Eala advanced to the quarterfinals of the Dubai Tennis Championships and made the round of 16 in both the Indian Wells Open and the Miami Open, and at every single one of those stops, the same thing happened. The crowds showed up, the energy exploded, and the atmosphere around her matches became the talking point of the entire tournament week. Jessica Pegula, one of the top players on the WTA Tour with years of experience competing in packed stadiums against the biggest names in the world, stepped onto the court against Eala at the Miami Open and described the crowd as something she had genuinely never experienced before. She said she played Eala when she kind of broke out last year in Miami, and the whole crowd was against her, and she was asking herself what on earth was going on and where did all these people come from. And then week after week as Eala has done well and established herself as a genuinely elite player on tour, the fans have kept coming. Pegula noted that you could hear the crowd roaring from the hotel. From the hotel. That is not a tennis crowd. That is a phenomenon. And the numbers back it up. The so-called Eala effect, a phrase that analysts and tournament organizers have now officially added to the tennis vocabulary, describes exactly what happens when Eala enters a draw. Ticket demand surges to extraordinary levels. Revenue climbs. Media attention multiplies. At Indian Wells earlier this year, the demand for tickets to watch Eala compete sent prices skyrocketing to levels that left the entire industry stunned, resulting in a staggering $5 million in ticket sales from a single match. One match. That number ricocheted around the tennis world and permanently changed how tournament directors think about the value of having Eala in their event. And now in Linz, with 90% of seats claimed by Eala supporters, the Eala effect has crossed into entirely new territory, because this time, it has come for someone else's home advantage and taken it completely. That someone is Julia Grabher. The 29-year-old Austrian, currently ranked number 89 in the world, entered the Linz Open with a 3-8 record in 2026 and had not won more than one match in any tournament all year. On paper, Eala was the clear favorite. But on paper does not account for home crowd energy, home comfort, and the psychological boost of hearing your name chanted in your native language on familiar soil. Grabher had every right to expect that boost. Instead, she got the opposite. She walked onto that court and heard the roars going to the other side of the net. She watched the stadium pulse with energy for her opponent. She had to dig deep against not just Eala's tennis but against an atmosphere that was actively working against her, and she had to do it in her own country. That is a psychological mountain that very few athletes in any sport have ever had to climb. And the fact that it is happening in tennis, a sport where home advantage has always been considered a real and meaningful factor, makes this story all the more remarkable. When the match was over, Eala had won 6-4, 6-3, and she did not waste a single second before acknowledging the crowd that had made Austria feel like Manila for an evening. In a moment that sent Filipino fans everywhere into an absolute frenzy, Eala addressed her supporters directly after the match, saying in Filipino, "Hello kababayan, di kayo inakala na ang dami nayo dito, salamat sa pagsabay," which translates to, "Hello fellow Filipinos, I did not expect so many of you to be here, thank you for following me." That quote tells you everything you need to know. Even Eala herself, the person at the center of all of this, was stunned by the scale of devotion her fans have shown. They did not just buy tickets to a tennis match. They traveled internationally, some of them from thousands of miles away, to stand in a stadium in Austria and cheer for a 20-year-old from the Philippines in the first round of a clay court tournament. That is not fandom. That is something else entirely. The win marked Eala's 13th victory of the year, and it sets up a second-round clash against former French Open champion and world number 12 Jelena Ostapenko, a player she has already beaten twice in head-to-head matchups in 2025. The Linz Open is Eala's 9th tournament of the year, following appearances in Auckland, the Australian Open, Manila, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Dubai, Indian Wells, and Miami. At every single one of those stops, the Eala effect showed up. The fans showed up. The energy showed up. And now they have all followed her to Austria for the clay season opener, with Stuttgart and Madrid still to come before the French Open in Paris. The bigger picture here is impossible to ignore. What Alex Eala is doing for Philippine tennis, for Asian tennis, and for the global growth of the women's game is historic. She is not just winning matches. She is bringing millions of people to the sport who had never watched a WTA event in their lives. She is filling stadiums in countries that are not her own and making those stadiums feel like home. She is inspiring young athletes across an entire nation and giving a country that has been waiting generations for a moment like this every reason to believe the moment has finally arrived. Tournament directors are calling her a player who will own the future. Fellow professionals are calling the crowd energy around her insane. And Julia Grabher, who deserved a home crowd moment of her own and instead got swallowed by a tidal wave of support for her opponent, is now living proof that the Eala effect respects no border, no home advantage, and no expectation of how a tennis crowd is supposed to behave. Austria expected a local hero's welcome. What it got instead was an Eala takeover. And if you think this is the peak of what this young woman is capable of, on the court and off it, you have not been paying attention. What do you think? Have you ever seen a player build this kind of global fan army this early in their career? Can anyone on the WTA Tour stop Eala's momentum heading into the clay season? And be honest, if you had the chance to fly to Austria just to watch her play a first-round match, would you do it? Drop your answer in the comments right now because I want to hear from every single one of you.